and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where I think we do need a big discussion. Let's be honest here. We have to talk about Hansi Flick's reaction after the final whistle yesterday. I think when we all saw the images that we did, it was striking. You know, it was very, very impactful there. Seeing the emotions that Flick was going through. What was happening there? What exactly is going on? What's the explanation behind that? We're going to be talking all about it here, along with Raphinha, his impact on the team. He had some big words as well yesterday, and as well an update on Ronald Araujo and his situation right now. So it's all coming up. I hope you guys are doing well after getting 3 points in yesterday's game. But come on, and let's do this. Because I would like to start first and foremost by talking about Raphinha once again. And I think he deserves that. I think if you look at yesterday's game, the fact that he was in the starting lineup there, returning to the team, that in itself gave us a boost. And as soon as the game started, you all just thought, you know what? Boy, have we missed him. Look at what he does. Look at the way that he moves. And again, it's not only about what he does with the ball, which is great, by the way. I mean, he was involved in the first 2 goals heavily yesterday in the way that he was getting in behind, operating in spaces. And it's that final action with Raphinha that I think we lack at times. You know, in the final third, we have a lot of play, we have a lot of chances, but we need somebody there who is very, very decisive in the final third. In this system, you need players who make things happen. And I look at Raphinha there, whether it's scoring a goal himself, you know, he's got a great shot on him from close range, from long range, he can certainly there trouble goalkeepers, but also in terms of the passes. You look at those balls that he played yesterday, the first one right across the box into such a dangerous area, and the second one there just slotted back, perfectly weighted for Dani Olmo. He is so devastating in the final third, and this is what we saw last season. It is to absolutely nobody's surprise that Raphinha is an influential player in this team. And remember last season, I think at times it's still underrated what he did, because I think in the end we were all blown away by Lamine Yamal, his explosion onto the world stage. What he was able to do at his age was extraordinary. The combination between the two of them was brilliant. But Raphinha was outstanding. You know, he was the player that in the Champions League consistently delivered world-class, absolutely world-class performances. So yeah, Raphinha, his return was always going to be key. What he does with the ball, what he does without the ball. And you know what? It's not even just about that. Because that's the other thing, that's the other side of Raphinha too. Because yesterday we saw him with the captain's armband. Throughout last season at different stages, we saw him with the armband. And it became a bit of a joke at first, but I don't think it was by the end. When he wears that armband, he is different. And not only he is different in my opinion, but the whole team responds differently with him as the captain, with him as the leader. And in my opinion, he should be right up there as the Barca captain. He has every single quality that you would want in the captain of your team. And listen to what he said after yesterday's game. Speaking there about what he does on the field, speaking about the way that he does talk to his teammates, that he does shout, he's very vocal when he's out there. He said, honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm becoming a burden, and maybe I'm annoying to my teammates. But I think it's important, and maybe sometimes during the game they think, oh, he's talking too much, he's shouting too much. That's my style. He said, I demand more from the players who I know are capable of more. He said there has to be somebody who's a troublemaker in the game, somebody there who disrupts, somebody there who leads as well. He said, I don't mind if that's me. And then together in the locker room, we will all celebrate together. And I think there's a lot to unpack there in that quote, because first of all, that's what we've missed. We need somebody who is willing to lead by example in this team. If Raphinha is darting around, pressing, and he's shouting at you, why aren't you doing it too? Why are you not following that lead? And that's what he's trying to bring to this team. He is trying to bring that energy, bring that intensity. But what's intriguing to me, especially since we're going to go on to talk about some of the flaws in this Barca team in today's video, what's interesting to me is that he says he feels like he might be a bit of a burden. He is looking around the dressing room, looking around the field and thinking, am I annoying them? Now, it shouldn't seem that way. This team last season were all together. They were running for each other. They were working for each other. Raphinha, he is not a burden. He is not an annoyance. That should be the standard. If you are annoyed by him, don't bother playing. We do not want you in this team. That's the way that you behave. Raphinha is somebody here who everybody should be looking to follow. Everybody should be looking to emulate that kind of effort. And this is why it's vital that he's back. This is why it is absolutely crucial in the dressing room, out there on the field. He is a leader with or without the armband. But in my opinion, that armband should definitely stay with him. Because it's very, very interesting then that you move on to this Hansi Flick situation. You move on to the reaction that we all saw at the end of yesterday's game when Flick was sort of sitting alone on the sidelines there on the bench after the match, after the win, of course. But look at the reaction. And I think when we all saw that, initially I thought he's close to tears. He is actually close here to breaking down. For me personally, I thought, is it something non-footballing related? I was very worried for him. I was very worried about the situation. If anything, I'm relieved, I think, to learn here that it seems as though it was football related. It seems as though it was based around what he had just seen from his Barcelona team. And what's extraordinary here is that Flick was so affected by that performance. And right now, I think if you look at him, if you look at that reaction, if you look at him in press conferences, on the sidelines, he is feeling it right now. And what we're hearing in the media is that it has been such a demanding week mentally there for Hansi Flick, losing against Chelsea, the aftermath of that game. And now this weekend, it wasn't convincing either. And what we're hearing in the media is that Flick is feeling a bit worn down right now. He's feeling a bit drained from all of the pressure on the team. But it's not just about that. It's not just about him. It's not just about the way that he's feeling. I think the overriding feeling right now for Flick is he genuinely believes in these players. I think he's becoming, frustrated, angry, disappointed. But at the same time, it's almost like when you get angry with your kids. You don't want to. He believes in these players. He loves these players. He believes here they can succeed in his system. But we're just not seeing that. And I think that's why in press conferences, when you're hearing Hansi Flick say, look, I'm seeing great things in training. I believe that we can improve. The intensity will come back. We will get better. It's not because he's trying to fool us. It's not because he's trying to kid us here into seeing something that we're just not. He does believe in them. He does want to see their resurgence. But I think what we saw yesterday after the game, it's his realisation that it's not really happening. It's not really happening as he hoped that it would right now. And again, what was so interesting to me, who was the man, who was the player to go over to him to actually tell him it's going to be okay? It was Raphinha. He went over to Flick and told him, we will improve, we will get better, and it will happen in the upcoming matches. Now remember, Flick said that himself after the game against Chelsea. Raphinha is now reassuring him that we will get there. We will do this for you. And what I don't want to see here is the players letting down this coach. Because quite clearly, he cares. He really, really does. He wants this to be a success. We know how much he cares about this club. What I don't want to see is a lack of effort. We can talk about the system, we can talk about what works, what doesn't, tactically there's different things that can improve about this Barcelona team, but what we are seeing right now is a lack of focus, a lack of concentration, a lack of effort. You can't say those things. Those players should be running like crazy for this coach right here. He has given them a lot of faith. He defends them in the media. He's open there to saying, look, it's going to come good. They're going to come good. Stay off their back. He's trying to stop the media from getting on these players. They've got to do something for him now. They have got to step up and perform for their coach. And that is what we are looking for. And it almost seems like now that's what Flick's waiting for. He is sitting there thinking, please show me something. Because I tell you what, I hear Flick now in certain press conferences say things like, we're not the same as last season. We're not bringing the same intensity that we did last season. The effort compared to last season, it's not quite there. And this really does remind me of Xavi Hernandez. It's almost an identical kind of feeling whereby the coach is in front of you. You want them to succeed. You want them here to show that they can be a success. But the players have to step up. The players here have had a drop-off compared to last season. They are not doing the same things. They're not working in the same way. And that's why you have to have somebody like Raphinha call them out. Make sure here they're ready to step up now. We don't want to let Flick down. We do not want to go down without a fight. You need to work hard. That is the number one rule, the number one commandment. Without that, you achieve nothing. However, guys, in order for the players to step up, in order for them here to defend their coach and ultimately to get through this difficult patch that we are in, well, we need all of those players to be fit and available for selection. Now, one player who actually wasn't involved yesterday, it was quite a late decision, really. It was Frenkie de Jong. I don't think we were expecting him to not be available. So even that, it could have altered Hansi Flick's decision in terms of the team. You know, he did have, unfortunately, Frenkie, a family issue. It was a personal reason why he missed yesterday's game, and of course all of our best wishes go out to him right now. But the good news on Frenkie is that that issue has been, dealt with in his case, so he is back in training this morning, straight back in. So unfortunate to miss the game at the weekend, but we were able to get through that there, replace him in midfield somewhat. I did think the midfield yesterday was a bit too chaotic. It really did lack control in many areas. Calmed down, of course, a bit when Pedri came on. That was the important thing. But yeah, Frenkie back in training today and should be all okay for Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. However, it's not just him right now. It's not just him that missed the game at the weekend, because we must come on now to talk about the whole situation still regarding Ronald Araujo. Because yet again today, he wasn't in training. Now, since the Chelsea game, has anybody seen him? Has he even been near the training ground right now? Araujo is still not even close to being in training. And again, in the media, we're hearing he's so affected, even more so than, for instance, against PSG, then again against Inter. He feels as though this time he is more responsible than ever for what happened against Chelsea. And what has been suggested to Araujo right now, there's talk about this stomach situation. Did he have a stomach virus? Is that why he missed the game at the weekend? Would that keep him out for another game? I'm not really sure about that. Apparently the coaching staff have told him, maybe you need a reset. Maybe here it's Araujo taking some time away from the rest of the team. And I've got to admit, guys, this is probably a first for me. I've been doing this a long time here with Barca. We've had absolutely terrible defeats, unfortunately, over the years. It's happened, especially in the Champions League. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody just sort of step away from it, step aside for a second to reset and almost sort of mentally recover from a mistake that you've made or a defeat that you've had. I haven't seen this really. And I think Joan Laporta's words on Araujo, just after the game against Chelsea, they were very interesting and quite telling, I believe, on this whole situation. Because he did say, I want to encourage Araujo. He said he's been heavily criticised, and Laporta said, I don't think that's fair. He said he gives his all on the pitch, he's our captain, but he needs to overcome this moment. He's very emotional, he's got strong feelings, but Laporta has said again here, I need to tell him that we're with him, but he needs to move on. We are all here to win, we're all here when we lose as well, and no person is solely responsible for the defeats or the victory. So I think those words there from Laporta, they were very calculated because, yeah, he's come out in support of Araujo. We want to support all of our players. We don't want to certainly encourage any abuse. That is certainly crossing the line here. Criticism is understandable. Frustration is understandable. It was a big mistake. It was a silly red card to pick up. We all acknowledge that, but we want to encourage him. But at the same time here, you've got to step up again. You've got to come back here and you've got to try again. You can't just sort of leave it all behind here. Let's just walk away. Let's just say, let's have a break, let's never come back. At the end of the day, the only way that you can sort of recover from these mistakes, the only way that we can hit back is if you just pull up your socks, you get back to work, you continue to work hard, and you try and recover here. And I just think with Araujo, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because right now it looks as though he's not going to be there against Atletico Madrid. How long will he be away from this team right now? And what will be the kind of response when he does indeed return, guys? So let me know your thoughts there on Araujo's situation. And please let me know as well, what did you make of that Flick reaction after the final whistle? The way in which he looked, he looked so emotional on the sidelines. Were you surprised by that? And do you understand his reasoning right now? Can you see that he is feeling a bit drained after this current form of Barca? So please do let me know all of those thoughts in the comments down below. Tomorrow, we will be building up to Barca versus Atletico Madrid. I'm excited, though, for that game, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Thanks for the support, but until next time, as always, Vesca, El Barça.